across the vastness of human history. Few ideas have endured as powerfully as the concept of self-discipline. Yet, we are not speaking of a cold rigidity or an inflexible control, but that gentle and silent strength that shapes character, builds inner empires, and sustains those who aspire to live according to higher ideals. When we dive into ancient teachings like those of the Stoic philosophers, we realize that true discipline does not emerge from imposition, but from a constant, conscious choice of who one wishes to become. Imagining a young man named Aurelius can help us grasp this truth. He grew up in a small village, where the days were marked more by the promises of dawn than by the assurances of night. From an early age, he learned that the world owed him nothing. At just 12 years old, instead of rebelling against hardship, he chose to anchor his heart in serenity and perseverance. Aurelius was not a prodigy, nor did he come from a family rich in opportunities. His parents tended to community gardens, living for what the earth offered with generosity and often with scarcity. He had no access to the finest schools, but found and used books and fireside conversations an invisible university. His motto, learned from a wise elder in the village, was simple: master yourself, and you will master your destiny. This phrase echoed in his mind every morning, like a distant drum reminding him of the path he had chosen. Over time, Aurelius began to understand that true discipline was not about waking early for the sake of it, nor studying out of obligation. It was about aligning every small act with the greater purpose he had set for himself. If he rose before the sun, it was to cultivate his mind and body. If he opened a book, it was to nourish his soul. And by resisting the easy temptations of the moment, laziness, complaints, conformity, he was carefully building, stone by stone, an invisible fortress within himself. Of course, the journey was not easy. There were moments of doubt, exhaustion, and loneliness. Those who seek to live above circumstances often feel the weight of walking against the current. But Aurelius discovered a powerful secret. Each small act of discipline was a personal victory, and personal victories, accumulated day by day, generate a strength the outer world cannot break. He did not need others to witness his triumphs. It was enough that each night he could lay his head on the pillow and know he had been true to himself. As the years passed, the village that once seemed too small for his dreams began to see him as a point of reference, not because he sought applause, but because life naturally elevates those who live with purpose. People would come to him, seeking advice, inspiration, a word of strength for difficult days. Aurelius had become, without realizing it, a quiet light amid the uncertainties of ordinary life. And he had achieved all this not through magical formulas or extraordinary talents, but through the daily decision to live with dignity and determination. This brings us to a powerful reflection. What if true greatness lies not in grand achievements, but in the courage to remain faithful to our principles in the small choices of daily life? Today's discipline is tomorrow's legacy. And perhaps at the end of life, what will matter most will not be the titles earned or the wealth accumulated, but the serene answer we will be able to give ourselves. I was who I chose to be, even when it was difficult. If there is one lesson that Stoicism insists on teaching us, it is that true freedom is not doing whatever we want, but wanting what we must do. Aurelius, throughout his quiet journey, understood that the external world is an uncontrollable stage, where the only performance we can truly rehearse and perfect is our own conduct. While many around him were swept away by the unpredictable tides of fortune and misfortune, he chose to anchor his soul in what was within his reach. His thoughts, his actions, his reactions. The winds could blow fiercely, storms could shake the village, but within Aurelius, there was a peace built brick by brick. In ordinary days and difficult nights, there were moments when life seemed to mock his efforts. A devastating drought struck the region when he was about 24 years old, and the crops, the lifeblood for so many families, withered under the merciless sun. Many fell into despair. Others looked for someone to blame, and some surrendered to silent hopelessness. Yet Aurelius, recalling the principles that shaped his existence, stood firm, accepting what cannot be changed, acting with courage on what could be transformed, and above all, preserving the serenity of the soul. These were his internal commandments. He organized small work groups, taught cultivation techniques he had learned from old manuscripts, and although he could not end the drought, he changed how his community responded to it. What Aurelius shows us is that true power lies not in bending the world to our will, but in bending our will to meet what the world demands of us, without ever betraying our principles. For the Stoics, virtue is the only true wealth, because it is untouchable. You can lose lands, health, friends, and status, but the integrity of the spirit, that can never be taken away. Aurelius knew this not because he had read it in some philosophical treatise, but because he lived it out word by word, idea by idea, like an artist who cannot be content with theory, but must shape the material with his own hands. When we look at his life, we see that the discipline that started as small habits expanded into every sphere of his existence. He did not govern his days to prove something to anyone, but because he understood that a life well lived is one that responds with honor to the challenges it is given. The serenity in his eyes was a result of countless invisible battles fought within himself, against unjust anger, empty pride, and paralyzing sorrow. Each inner victory granted him a freedom that external circumstances could never steal. Perhaps the most admirable part of his story is not that he thrived despite hardships, but that he kept his soul intact, even when everything seemed to invite into bitterness or surrender. Aurelius teaches us, just as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius once taught, that we do not control the winds, but we can adjust our sails. More than that, we can accept without resentment that the universe has its own course, and that our role is simply to navigate with virtue. Now, before we continue, I want to invite you to something special. If these teachings are resonating with you, if at any moment during this video you thought, I want to be that unshakable fortress, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. This way, you won't miss any content that strengthens your spirit for life's daily battles. And tell me in the comments, when was a time in your life when you managed to act with calm and courage, even when everything seemed lost? I would love to read your stories. Maybe we can share strength and inspiration together. No need for a long story, just the essentials, as Stoicism teaches us. Few words, but filled with truth. As the years advanced and wrinkles began to carve his face with the precision of someone sculpting a story, Aurelius became, without ever seeking it, a silent beacon for those looking for refuge in difficult times. He never proclaimed himself a master or a sage. He was simply a man who refused to be defeated by circumstances. Those who came to him did not find grand speeches or magical solutions, but the steady presence of someone who, over a lifetime, had learned to endure the unbearable with dignity and to celebrate the ordinary with gratitude. That, in itself, was more valuable than any theoretical advice. On a memorable occasion, when a great fire devastated part of the village, many lost everything they owned. Young and old, men and women, wandered among the ashes, searching for something to hold on to. Aurelius, now in his early 60s, gathered the people in the square, not to promise riches or miraculous reconstructions, but to remind them what the fire could not consume: their courage, their unity, their ability to begin again. He echoed, without quoting, the timeless Stoic truth: it is not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond to it. This spirit of active acceptance, of transforming every adversity into an opportunity to practice virtue, was what made Aurelius not just a survivor, but a true victor. As he looked upon the ruins, he did not see a final tragedy, but the beginning of a new building, not just of homes, but of character. The external ruins serve as a mirror for the strengthening of the inner self. It was not a foolish optimism, but a mature awareness that everything is transient, and that he who cultivates a strong soul carries within himself a home that no fire can destroy. Over time, those who lived alongside Aurelius began to internalize his quiet lessons. The new generation grew up hearing less about complaints and more about responsibility. Instead of seeking someone to blame for their pain, they learned to ask, what can I do in the face of this? This legacy, built from small, persevering gestures, was more powerful than monuments of stone or fiery speeches. It was a legacy passed from heart to heart, like a discreet flame, impossible to extinguish. At its core, Aurelius' life challenges us with a question that still echoes today. What do we do with what life hands us? Are we reacting like leaves blown by the wind, or are we shaping ourselves like sculptors of our own souls? True wisdom, as the Stoics teach, does not lie in waiting for the world to be fair, but in learning to be just in an imperfect world. It is not about hoping that everything will go well, but about walking with honor even when everything seems to conspire against us. And if you have made it this far into this video, it is because there's a seed of Stoicism ready to blossom within you. I warmly invite you to be part of this community that believes in the silent strength of virtue. Subscribe to the channel. Here, we do not seek easy formulas or empty promises. We seek to build, brick by brick, a life that is dignified, strong, and fulfilled. Take a moment as well to share with us in the comments. What part of this video touched you the most? Was there a story, a phrase, an example that lit a small light inside you? Share it. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let us grow together, like a small flame that, fed by courage and wisdom, becomes a bonfire capable of illuminating many paths. Welcome to our community of strong souls and serene hearts. And remember, amidst the chaos of the world, you can be the peace that refuses to be shaken.